Director of Federal Programs for the Muhlenberg School District. So what that means is I'm involved with all the federal funding that we get through, normally it's just our title grants. Obviously COVID changed that, so we have our ESSER funding that I'm also managing. And then I'm going to introduce the rest of our parent-family engagement team. So Miss Elizabeth Laviana, many of you have heard from her. She is our parent-family outreach coordinator. On the back on the iPad is Mrs. Samantha Armstrong. She's one of our instructional tech coaches in our district. And Mrs. Amy Madera, who is also one of our instructional tech coaches for the district. So this is our first shot at having a district-wide parent-family engagement committee. You are representing the masses. Obviously not everyone is here. We want as many people to be involved as possible. Our goal is to continue to build that bridge between the school and home. We want you part of the process. You have every right to be part of the process. How the funding is spent, we obviously are the educational experts, but we like to hear what your feeling is too, from what's working at home. How to get involved. We want you to be coming into our schools to feel welcome to do that. So we are starting this process by forming this Parent Advisory Council, and then you will be meeting several times throughout the school year. Doesn't mean you have to come every time. When you can, great. The other three ladies will be running those meetings. I will attend if I feel the need to. You have questions for me, I'm certainly available by phone, email, whatever the case may be. So that's the premise of why we're here. So we are going to record this, so I'm hoping, unless you have a reason why you wouldn't be, now none of you are on camera, so it's pointed at the screen and obviously me or anyone else who's talking up here. We're doing that because we want it to be, we're totally transparent. These are the things that we're talking about. We're going to post this up on our Muhlenberg YouTube channel, so that people that couldn't come tonight can watch it tomorrow for, again, trying to get their feedback, their opinions, all of those good things. And hopefully get your questions answered if you have any. The review of the community standards is kind of the main reason why we're doing this, and one of the pamphlets is explaining that. And the other people will explain that a little bit later. I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that I'm responsible and federally guided to do this. So the way it works is the federal government determines how much money is coming to all of the states, whether it would be through your normal title funding or even through the COVID money. And then the states then dole out that money to the districts. And it's all based on our economically disadvantaged numbers, our demographics, our population as a whole, all of that goes into that calculation. It also is how well do we spend the money, all right? So I am a true believer that every dollar that is generated are generated from our children that are here, and they deserve it all. So I don't leave a dime on the table, which doesn't always make my business manager very happy, because sometimes I go a little bit overboard. But I don't want to leave a cent on the table. Okay, all right.
Hang on.
Stop touching the plug.
Technical difficulties. It's back.
So with federal money comes a lot of rules, right? Rules how it's spent, rules for the uses of that money, and having you involved. That's one of the primary rules. You have to engage your families whenever you're dealing with federal funds. So there's a couple of things that are on here that is something that you as a family member have the right to see, and we have to review some of these things every year. One of them is the equity plan, and the equity plan talks about where our federal dollars in terms of our title grants are being spent. And we spend those title grant monies in our 2 elementary buildings. And I'll explain what each one of the title grants are for. So when you're spending those funds in those buildings, The state wants to make sure that you have a balance of experienced teachers versus inexperienced teachers, and by inexperienced, that means teachers that aren't tenured. So they're within the first 3 years of their career. So it's not like we take the 4th grade classroom and we put all our new teachers in there. And then the 6th grade has all of our veteran teachers of 20 years. The state's saying you gotta balance that out. You have to make sure that you have that equity. So that's what the equity plan talks about. And we made a physical copy of that. That was just updated with last year's numbers. So we don't have this year's numbers moving forward yet. So we will update it again at the end of this coming school year. So what you're seeing right now is what we're operating off of. And that's our equity plan. It gets updated every year. We'll post that on our website so that you can look at it as well. The health and safety plan, Amy's gonna click on there. That's something that was created during COVID. We had to talk about what we were doing for our health and safety plan, how you were using COVID money or ESSER money to make sure you were safe, we were clean, all the virtual learning, all of those good things had to go onto that. And the health and safety plan, Amy, if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see it has been updated, all of these dates. So the most recent update was March of 21. We haven't made an update because there was no reason, we didn't have to put in any changes. So that is the latest and greatest. It will be revisited every year, but it might not be updated every year. But you have to be aware as families that, hey, we have a health and safety plan, we're still following it, it's still there, and we've satisfied that requirement from the state. All right, and then the other link that I have on here is just to our district website. I mean, you probably are familiar with it, but I know websites can be a little overwhelming at times, and we don't want that. We want you to feel comfortable scrolling through our website where things are. So I'm putting this here just to let you know, this is always the first place you should check, because we do put things there. Anything that comes out, if you hear a phone call from Mrs. Laviana, I can guarantee you what she said is on this website. So in all of these different clicks, there's announcements. If you just scroll down, Amy, you'll see all at the bottom, there's our summer style registration. So I'm sure some of you have heard about that. That's a personal baby of mine, and everyone else that's in this room. We work great. We start planning that in January. So we are, knee deep in it for this year. That's on there, and if you keep scrolling down, our ESSER plan, which has to be on public display, is on there too. So please, just click around. If you have questions, call any one of us, and we will certainly walk you through. But that's the #1 place that we keep everything. And I'm really proud of the way that we communicate with families. And I know sometimes we go, well, I didn't get it. It really hinges on, is there a good email attached to your student's ID number? Because that's how we create our call list. So we use the student ID numbers, that creates a group. We send out emails, phone calls, text messages through that. We will put things on our social media pages. We've just really launched into what I think is a really good social media campaign. So follow us on Instagram, we're Go Mules. Follow us on Twitter, we're the Muhlenberg School District on there. We try to really put things on there that are about your kids. We want you to have a window into the buildings so that you can see the great things that we're doing here at Muhlenberg. If you have any kids that were involved in the WOW assembly today, I might be talking a little loud because you lose your hearing in that. I mean, it is K-3, it is 1,100 kids screaming at the top of their lungs. But it's fantastic, it's great, and I see WOW shirts right here. So I try to go in, go out, go in, go out, but it is really an amazing time. So that'll be on our social media. So those are the things that are please feel free to go in there, look around, and if there's something you don't like or you say, this is really hard to find. I cannot find how to get to my kids' school and to who their counselor is, please let us know, because this really is a work in progress. We've just transferred over to a new platform, so even my personal page, which is under federal programs, has not been updated on a new platform, so that's on my to-do list. But if there's something that you see that you just think, this is stupid, it's not making any sense, I can't find it, please let us know, because it is for you, not for us. We know what's going on here, so we really want you to be involved in that. So I'm going to talk about the federal funds, and then I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the team. They are going to go through what it means to be part of a parent advisory committee and what we want you to do to help us navigate this whole process. So the federal funds review, we have our title grants that we receive every year. We receive Title 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of that is generated by our students, our economically disadvantaged students. It looks at all of the demographics, and again, it's determined by how much money we get from the feds, and then the feds say to the states, okay, dole this out. So these numbers are for the next school year. So for 23-24 in Title I, our preliminary allotment is $1.1 million. Now I'm going to put that in a little perspective for you. I've been doing this role as an administrator for 6 years now, and we've never gotten more than $800,000. So there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we're really good at spending the money because, again, I don't leave a dime on the table. So when the state says, wow, look at Muhlenberg School District, they're spending every dime of $800,000, I don't carry anything over, they're going to say, and our enrollment is increasing, we all know that, we're going to get more money, which we did. So that money goes to anything to do with intervention. It's really that let's build from the foundation. Let's put our resources into our K-6 children. Let's make sure they're reading on grade level. Let's make sure they're doing their math on grade level. Those are the things that are so important to build that foundation. And that's what Title I goes for. So Title I, we have some of our reading specialists are funded through Title I. We have a guidance counselor funded through Title I. Any position that is supplemental in nature. Now you do need guidance counselors, but we have one that's focused on the social emotional learning in our district. And so we pay her salary out of Title I. Parent outreach, part of Liz's salary, comes out of Title I. So all of those things that are supplemental, and then of course anything that's an intervention program. If your kids, if they're in elementary school and they talk about the WIN period, what I need, that is a multi-tiered support system, and anything that we're using in there is funded from Title I. Title II, our preliminary allotment is 143 for next year. We haven't gotten over 100 in the past. So again, they're seeing that our needs are growing, and so our pots of money are growing. Title II is used for professional development in our school district. What do our teachers need in order to help our students? So instructional coaches like Sam and Amy, their salaries could be funded out of Title II. But it also helps with our professional development of our teachers. Again, what do our teachers need? We can get all the nice fancy programs in the world, but if our teachers don't know how to use them, it doesn't mean anything. So we make sure that when we decide on programs, like again, if you're involved in our elementary buildings, we're starting a new reading series next year, which I am so excited about. It really is a fantastic program. And again, if you have children in K-6, you will be invited to what we're calling an Amplify Night in September. I think it's September 13th, that we will be going through our reading series with our families, because we want you to be able to feel comfortable working with your children at home, just as we are in school. So we're all learning this program together. Title III is always the last allotment that's determined by the state. I don't know why. That's specific for our English learners. So again, any staff member that would be working specifically with English learners, we could pay salaries out of there. We generally don't have a lot of that. The allotment for that is usually around $56,000. I'm thinking it might be a little bit more this year because, again, we have right now, currently today, we have 400 English learners in our district. And that's, in 5 years, that has grown by 300. So we know we're growing, we know that's where our needs are. We have to make sure that we have enough ESL teachers in our districts, we have to make sure we have the right resources. So that's where Title III is. And then Title IV, that's a newer one on the title scene. You know, Title I, that's always, you hear about intervention and the foundational skills and all of those good things. Title IV came on that said, hey, don't forget, we've got kids that we need to enrich as well. So Title IV is for those enrichment opportunities, getting our teachers trained to teach an AP course, getting our kids, having our kids, all of our kids take the PSAT is something that Title IV could pay for. That's around $60,000, and that's been about that. But for the last 3 years, I've taken Title IV and I transferred it into Title I because it didn't have 1.1 million. And we had a lot more needs in those foundational skills than I did with enriching. So now that we've gotten that large allotment, we don't have to do that anymore. So we're gonna keep that this year. We're gonna look at different ways that we're gonna spend that. There's different pots and different rules of how to spend that. Put out a needs assessment to the district like, hey, we're gonna have this money. You know, what are some of the ideas that you have? So those are our federal funds, which we call our title funds. As you know, we still are in the COVID money. So we got ESSER 1, 2, 3. Those together with all the other COVID grants, we're about $10 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but we had a lot to do. We had to go virtual on a dime. We had to make sure there were devices in everyone's hands. We had to make sure that everyone was connected to the school. So there was a lot of things that, you know, went into that. And again, in the Fed's infinite wisdom, I guess, rather than stagger all that money out, they just kind of give it to you at once and say, okay, well, ESSER 1 is going to end that ended last September. Now ESSER 2 is going to end this September, and ESSER 3 is going to end next September. But you have to plan out how you're going to spend those monies in a 3-year window. It's kind of tough. So again, you can refer to our ESSER plan. We're pretty much sticking to that plan. But again, if you hear Dr. Maxwell talk, every dime that this district gets will go back into the hands of the children. That is huge. We're not building projects, even though we do need one. That was not something that we were interested in spending our ESSER dollars on, because quite frankly, the children that are here now are the ones that went through a very traumatic experience. They deserve to reap the benefits of that money, not 5 years from now. So we really have taken that money and have spread it apart those 3 years and have put it into numerous opportunities for our kids. The biggest one is our summer style and our spring style. And so we are starting into our 3rd year of summer style. We couldn't be any happier, and I see my favorite family here who was featured in our video last year. But again, it is so important to us that this is something that we do for our community and our kids. And I know there's always some frustration of, you know, some of the rules that we've put in place, and we're really, really doing it for, to make this program as successful as possible. Again, it's free to everyone. It's something that we believe in strongly, but I could have, in one session last year, I had 850 people register to come to our program. So I planned busing, I planned food, I planned staffing, we use our college students that assist in our classroom because we're trying to build that pipeline of educators. And most that came on any given day during that session was 305. So that's 500 more kids that I was anticipating that didn't come. So we put in some changes for this year. We put a cap in. We've capped off some classes to make sure that they are safe. We have swimming. We have, things that are kids out on an athletic field. We just want to make sure that we're not overcrowded and we're doing everything for our kids. So if you have any questions about that at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. My entire team right now they know what their marching orders are. So we will be up and running and ready to go June 12th. We're excited for that third year. We can't wait. It makes for a long summer, but our kids don't miss a beat. I mean, they leave school and they come back and they're in that mode, and we see a lot of benefits from that come August, that they are really ready to kind of roll into the year. Does anyone have any questions for me? Again, I can't thank you enough for coming. We've had some other parent nights where it's like, oh, please come. Please come. There's 2 people here, and so this is, I mean, just a funny story with the first year we did summer style when we were, here's this money, we got to spend it, how are we going to do this? We got to have, I mean, the state was specific, you got to have some sort of summer offerings. We knew that we weren't going to have, just come in and we'll teach you Algebra 1. Kids weren't going to come, teachers weren't going to, so that's, after many, many, many weeks of brainstorming, that's how the summer style program came about. We want our kids to come in, we want them to have an educational component, but we want them to have fun as well. So we were building this on a whim, right? I had no idea. And I am just like, we sent out that first registration and please come, at least give 100. We had 1,800 students sign up through that first summer. Now, not everyone did come, but 1,800. I couldn't have been happier. And the same last summer, we had almost as many sign up. And this summer, again, it's close to that. So we're really, really looking forward to it. And again, it's in part to all of you and our families and willing to take a risk on us. So, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the ladies to go through the rest of the program.
All right, and what we're going to focus on, there's pamphlets that are available to you on the front table on the way out if you want to get them. If you want them now, you're welcome to them. There's also going to be a website that's going to be available. We'll make it available to you too. So however you'd like to look at things, that's what you can do. And I'm Samantha Armstrong. I'm an instructional technology coach and part of the team. And one of the things that we love is the fact that we're going to hold meetings, and we'll go more by buildings eventually because different people need different things at different levels. I know I have a 16-year-old and I have a 21-year-old, so I know based on elementary all the way through, you're going to have different needs as your kids are going through the school system, so we want to be there for you all the time. That means we'll probably be looking at like the first marking period, end of that, the end of the third marking period. Those will be pretty scheduled kinds of meetings where we don't want to be in charge. We want to be in charge with you. So what will happen is more about give and take. Tonight, you need an overview of everything, but as we move forward, we'll have all kinds of things we can share, but we need to know what you need. We need to know what you need on a regular basis. So that's going to change from the first marking period to the third marking period. You can't decide that that moment. Things change all the time. So these standards, like I said, it's easy to look on the website, which again, we have a link to it, but there's also this flyer. And the first standard basically talks about connecting families to community resources. And if we look at the school and district one, if we click on the school and district one, that's okay. We don't have to read everything. I'm just going to do a quick overview, but if there's things that you would like to share as we talk, that's fine. So this is where we're connecting to the resources that you need. So you have goals for your kids. You have specific interests. You have all kinds of different needs, and we need to personalize what we're doing to you. So we can feel this will work really well, but you'll say, not so much. We've tried that before. What about this? and there could be better ways to do something or ways where you can lead. And we'll say, well, tell me more about that. How do you think that could work for all of us together? So that's something that's going to be so important, and again, that's just going to change over time. And we can go ahead and totally standard too. I'm sorry, I think you can, yeah, there we go. So that partnership we talked about, this needs to be authentic. It can be in a flyer, it could be on a piece of paper, and it's a good place to look for something, but you also need to decide as we're working together, you know what, we actually have reached that goal, this is a strength now. This is something that you feel comfortable with, your children feel comfortable with, so let's move on. What else do you think would be helpful? And that reciprocal, this isn't about just us or just you, this is us. This is our community, this is how we help each other. Respectful, when you feel like you're being listened to, that's great, but when you don't, please let us know. We need to make sure that this, like we said, is a partnership. Sorry, there's a lot there, that's why you're not sitting through all of it. Okay, standard 3 is a mouthful, but an easier way to think about that then is, again, thinking about all of us in all of these roles. Yes, that might be my actual job that I'm called an instructional tech coach, but I'm also going to be an encourager. I'm going to be somebody else that helps. You are a teacher as well. You are modeling. You are a caregiver. So we're talking about this again, it takes a village, and we're really talking about all of us together, looking for ways that we can support the roles we need to follow, but how can we also really acknowledge and celebrate the roles that you play that are more than just one, for sure.
For that standard, we also have, like, for the parents that have kids from kindergarten to 3rd grade, we have a Viendo Puertas Opening Doors program, which is a way to teach the parents to become their child's first teacher. We're going to have sessions starting June 12th and the 13th here. So if you're interested in being part of that program, I'm one of the instructors, so you just let me know before you leave so I can take your name and number. And we're going to have the classes at the Blue Center.
All right, and standard 4 says that intentional opportunity. So that's what we're talking about with these meetings. That's what we need. So these are how they're going to be scheduled to start, but maybe you need something different. So we're just offering that to start because I know for a fact you're busy. So I understand that sometimes it might be easier to contact us through email or other ways as well. This isn't the only way to do it, but it's a wonderful way to truly hear from you. And then that'll direct where we go. So when we say that intentional opportunity, we'll provide the first couple, but then we'll all decide together what it's going to look like.
We were faster.
And this is sometimes hard because the leadership and the advocacy skills. The leadership part, you're going to feel comfortable in certain places, you're going to feel like you want to step back in others. And then there's going to be some people that want to speak up for their child, but they're not quite sure how to do it, but somebody else, another parent has. And they really found, when I talked to this person or when I shared with these people, I really felt not only was I heard, but we moved forward together. So to hear somebody else's experiences of what worked or something that didn't, and how do we need to change that to make sure it is something that works? And that's going to change per person. So the fact that somebody else says, well, this is what worked for me, that's great. But let's look at all the different options, the ways we can advocate for each other also. And the last one, thank you for being patient. I know it's a lot of text.
There it is.
This is the big thing that I was talking about before. So what your child or what you might need when they're in kindergarten is going to be really different from when they're graduating. And thinking about anything that you're talking about, whether it's going to be school related during the day or it's after school activities, other ways to stay involved, all the different ways that you can be involved that might not just be about being in the classroom. We want to make sure whatever that transition is, whether it's a family transition to something different in your house that you didn't plan, to something that's going on in school, moving from MEC to CE Cole, moving from Cole to the middle school, you get the idea. The idea is it's going to feel different, it's going to change in each building, so we honor that and we understand it. If it worked last year, that's great, but we might have to look at something else, and that's where your voice is so important. So these standards are helpful, but like I said, you're going to be the answer and the voice.
And with that being said, we do have the website here if you want to become a volunteer. That's to get more involved with the schools in each building. So the website's here, if you go on that website, it shows you like the registration, what you need to do in order to become a volunteer. And then they'll contact you to let you know, and to find out which building would you rather be, or what kind of things you can do for the district.
Right, so those are really gonna be the 6 key ideas that guide us, but our conversations are gonna decide what are the areas that we feel are important. And again, that can change as we need it to. So as we start to get closer to next school year, which I know we're not done with this one quite yet, just go ahead and look for those things. But if anything we were just saying tonight makes you start thinking, hey, I really feel comfortable sharing this, we sit together and share it. It's not going to be that we sit at a front table and you sit somewhere else. This just happens to be where we're meeting tonight. So we'll decide how that's gonna look together. So did you have any questions about these in general? I know there's a lot there. Yeah, I know, I apologize. But thank you for being patient with that. Like I said, we really look forward to working with you and just learning from you as well and hearing your voices being shared.
Thank you.
All right.
If you didn't sign in, can you please sign in before you leave? ¿Tienen alguna pregunta? ¿Alguien necesita información? Estamos necesitando también voluntarios. En estos folletos está el sitio de web de la escuela para si quieren ser voluntarios en cualquiera de los edificios de la escuela. Eso nos ayuda a nosotros para que ustedes también puedan ayudar en la escuela, informarse más de lo que está sucediendo, ser parte de la escuela, tener más acceso.
Okay.
What are the hours to volunteer?
I'm sorry?
What are the hours to volunteer? If you want to volunteer.
You create the hours. You talk to the principal and then you go through the whole process and then they'll tell you what. Either they will give you a list of the hours and then you can tell them I'm available from this time to this time and then they'll try to accommodate you.
And Monday to Friday, right?
Monday to Friday.
And can we volunteer for summer or for next school year?
You can volunteer for whatever.
Are there clearances necessary?
Yes, and they will walk you through it.
Okay.
I've noticed that in like the junior high school, there's a lot of issues with bullying. Is there something where parents could like have meetings with people that will try to help eliminate, not eliminate bullying, because bullying will always exist. But is there like a program where someone will come into each class and talk about the importance of ending bullying or how to get help or something of that nature?
We do have the staff program, we also have social workers here in this school, and they do have in during the assembly, they do talk to the students about bullying and other issues like drugs. So we do
I
have
just
social
feel that
workers.
there's just, it's been an epidemic. And it's just,
And for the parents, if you want to be informed, you can always call the school and talk to your child's counselor to see what else is available maybe for the parents as well. I mean, that's probably a good idea, just to have the parents have some webinar on how to,
yeah,
teach your child.
Mr. Baylor also has a stop bullying email at newsdk12.net, and when anyone emails that, it goes to him, his 2 assistant principals, our social worker, the counselors, and they take immediate action. When I was in the classroom and I was a teacher for Mr. Baylor, I know they come right in and they get a statement from whoever, sent the email, and then they go from there and try to take care of it as
And
well.
it's confidential. Ella está hablando del bullying y qué es lo que podemos hacer para tratar de controlar el bullying en la escuela. Tenemos el sitio de website en la escuela que es bullying. Ustedes pueden entrar ahí, si hablan con los hijos de ustedes y le dicen me está molestando, esto está sucediendo en la escuela y no se atreven a hablar con los maestros, pueden entrar a ese sitio de web y dar la información de ustedes, así el principal de la escuela, del edificio, se comunica con ustedes, coge la información de ustedes y hablan con el estudiante de una manera que no sea invasiva, así los estudiantes no se sienten incómodos o si creen que le van a decir al maestro, le van a decir a otro estudiante. Y ellos también lo redirectan también a ver a la trabajadora social de la escuela, al psicólogo se lo necesita.
I appreciate the website for volunteering. My daughter goes here. She's Miss Toledo's class. She's 4th grader going to 5th grade. So I'm very interested in that. But I do have a question. She had mentioned earlier there are 400 English learners. And I know there is a good number of Latino community right? Latino number here. And my question would be, how has that production or transition where we have kids, you know, they just move in the area and now they're learning and it's new to them. How is the school operating in that? What's the percentage? What's the growth? You know, how are we doing that? Because as a parent, I'm concerned about that. And I'm concerned for my neighbor because they have children and they go here. So how is that? How is that going along? Because we would be interested in volunteering that, you know, our children transitioning, knowing English as a second language, but they continue their growth in their education and become better each year.
We do have really good ESL teachers in here. So, and as far as parent communication, I'm here for them. I get to know them. They can call me at registration time. I'm usually there if I'm available. If they need translator, I'm there. So then like that, I can provide them with whatever resources we have, whatever other like volunteer information, so they can be a part of it.
Thank you.
All right, and we can continue with those ideas, those topics and issues further, so please know when you voice it tonight that we can continue to talk about them later.
Yeah, in reference to the funds that have been allotted from the SR money from the COVID funding. Question with, I know that, I think it was mentioned that it's been used a bit for the summer style program and helping with that, but is there a way to have some of those monies used throughout the school year for programs that are similar? Like maybe a homework club or an after school program, you know, that would help with those kids that might have missed things because of COVID. I understand that there is an issue now with algebra, you know, with the homeschooling, that there was a big chunk of education that was missing that they haven't been able to recover from, you know, even now. So I don't know for sure if that's something, you know, that those monies could be used for.
If you can email Dr. Chappelle, you have her email address and just, you know, just send her that information and she could get back to you.
And we do offer the spring style. I don't know if that's something, the spring style was basically to try to close that gap of learning that was lost during the COVID time. And also kind of catch them up on things that they're having trouble with right now as well.
Is that only for spring?
Yes, so that ran from, I think, February until the end of April. And then we'll start the summer style when school ends.
They usually target those students that are either failing or they're having difficulties in whatever area, subject area.
The summer program, is it more like an enrichment program or is it more like to help students get to where they need to be? At the level that they need to be?
So I think it's a little of both. The lessons, they're not going to be like a homework club or anything like that where you are targeting specific skills, but we use project-based learning, so we try to bring real-world problems in and make it a little more fun. Like Dr. Chappelle said, nobody wants to come in the summer to learn multiplication. But we do try to get those different skills in there. And we also add in a Get Involved class where there is all sorts of, there's swimming, there's cooking, there's sports, there's tons of different clubs that the kids can try out and see if that's something that they really like and would like to get involved in during the school year as well.
How do we know we register for summer stuff? Because I haven't received an email and I have another family that told me the same. They didn't receive an email that said yes, we register for summer stuff.
Registration closed May 19th for
I
summer
just
stuff.
read, but I didn't receive something that says yes, we already registered. I didn't receive that. And I have somebody else saying the same thing to me.
I can take down your name and email, and I can let Dr. Nelson know. She is kind of running the registration of everything, and she can contact you.
Is it too late to start?
Yeah, registration closed May 19th, so they're scheduling all of the kids in different groups.
Do we have any problem being able to with kids?
For, you mean to come in person and be online?
You mean hyperactivity? Oh,
I think you said hybrid,
no.
I'm sorry.
Hyper, she said. Yeah.
Hybrid. You mean during summer style or just at school?
Just at school.
So, you can talk to the counselors and they try out strategies that they can help with in the classroom to help children. There's little things like, I don't know how young your child is, but I've always put like Velcro under a desk to like give that sensory. There's wiggle seats, there's breaks, there's fidget toys. So the counselors would be able to help you with those questions.
All right, thank you so much for all of your support, your questions, your voices. And again, let's continue the conversations we've started. As we talked about for those questions for Dr. Chappelle, and then she'll take down your information about what we were just talking about. But we'll continue to talk and we'll communicate when those meetings will be. But if you think of things in the meantime, please let us know. All right.
Thank you
Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.